What's up, gamers, and welcome to another Gamer Jooce episode. You know we always get straight on into the content, and it is no different today. 2021 looks to be an exciting year for gaming, with a big lineup of reboots, prequels, sequels, and of course brand new games. Today, we'll be looking at 10 upcoming horror titles that will keep you quivering. Horror games are exciting because of how broad the genre is, and you can always expect something new. Since these games aren't out yet, this list isn't going to be in any particular order. Let's begin. Starting out at number 10, Returnal.
Scout log.
Developed by House Marquee, Returnal is a horror title expected to come out in March of 2021. From the looks of it, Returnal looks like a solid sci-fi psychological thriller as the story follows a woman trapped on a planet within a time loop as she tries to find a means of escape. The gameplay, from what we could gather, looks mostly like a third-person shooter with roguelike elements. Each death will alter the world, giving players a different set of levels to explore. Interestingly, the more often you die, the sanity of your character will start to dwindle. These new concepts are really what gamers look for in modern titles. This one looks really good. Returnal is set to be a PS5 exclusive, and I'm very certain it's gonna look great on the new console. Up next at number 9, System Shock Remake.
Road and dry. You won't get far.
For those of you who've played the original System Shock, this one will come as a much needed reboot. We're getting a remake developed by Night Dive Studios, post to their successful Kickstarter campaign that had been running for some time. The development team has been working on this game with hopes of getting it out into the market sometime in 2021, with no actual date being mentioned. While the game will be a remake, the developers are adding a whole bunch of new features and concepts, although not much is known about what new stuff's being added. It's always going to be exciting, having taken a small hiatus in the past, but everything now seems to be back on track with a release this year. System Shock will be available on PC, PS, and Xbox.
In its current form or as designed, yet you resist.
At number 8, The Medium.
It all starts with a dead girl. A forest.
Bloober Team's The Medium is set to be another psychological horror video game by them. Players here will be taking the role of a woman that will be going through two different living worlds. The Medium is being haunted by a child murderer and must solve the case. This one's a big one from the Bloober Team, as the development studio had mentioned before that they required next-generation consoles for this game to work as intended. Amongst other things, we have famed composer Akira Yamaoka from the Silent Hill franchise working on the score for this project. This title is already out on Xbox and PC and has received a very high rating according to several media sources. Number 7, Stalker II. This one is going to be big. I've always been a fan of the Stalker games ever since they came out in 2006 and 2007, hence the excitement. Stalker 2 was something that developers really tried to get off the ground in the past, but didn't succeed to do so, until now. GSC Game World got Stalker 2 back in development. Although details are a bit short at the moment, we know that Stalker 2 will once again put players into the Zone, an area heavily radiated over the Chernobyl incident. While you seek out loot and information, you'll find yourself also being sought out by mutated hostiles and a whole lot of anomalies that will prove to be incredibly dangerous. Stalker 2 is set to release sometime at the end of this year on Xbox and PC. Moving on to number 6, Unholy. Duality Games developed Unholy, and it's a rather interesting horror title in the direction of its storyline. In this post-apocalyptic horror, players will play the role of a mother named Saida. one of the last remaining humans living in the Last City. This city is governed by a class-style system where humans are regarded as the bottom tier while other creatures thrive above. There always lies a fear of higher-ranked classes crashing below and overtaking the area, for which humans are forced to live in the shadows. The abduction of Saida's child pushes her to seek for clues. Most of the game will rely on stealth, but does seem to have some combat elements and even uses items to help impersonate a creature of a particular class. However, dead bodies could attract others to search the area, making any kill risky. Not much is known about the release date, but it will be sometime this year on PC. At number 5, Sons of the Forest. For those of you who've played The Forest by End Night Games, Sons of the Forest is a sequel to it. The previous title released back in 2018 after being available in early access. The game was a survival title as players looked for means to escape the woods. Sons of the Forest is set to bring back the same concepts in a new avatar. Not much is known about the game or even if it will release sometime this year, but despite this, players want to take a trek back into the woods as a means to hunt down the supernatural that lurks within it. We're expecting quite a horrifying experience, but for now, we just have to wait and see what End Night Games has in store. Up next at number 4, Scorn. After a long stint on Kickstarter, Ebb Software had hoped that they would reach their goal of crowdfunding Scorn, but the game instead managed to continue to full production thanks to a private investor. This upcoming FPS horror title doesn't have much background information. The development studio is hoping players are thrown into this nightmarish world and from there are forced into exploring while fighting off grotesque monsters. As players explore, they will uncover information about the organic world they'll be exploring, and perhaps some information about what exactly is going on within the campaign. Scorn is set to be a 2021 release, but there's no official release date. At number 3, Resident Evil Village. This will probably be the biggest horror game of 2021. It's been hovering around the minds of all Resident Evil fans for a while now, and from whatever little that has been released about the game, it sure does look good. Resident Evil has been a fan-favorite survival horror video game franchise for years, and over those years we've seen a whole bunch of mainline installments, spin-offs, along with remakes. This 2021, we are going to get the next installment following after the events of Resident Evil 7. This game is said to take place a few years after Ethan manages to escape the madness at the Bakers, and just when Ethan feels a little comfortable again, Chris Redfield storms in and leaves him in pieces. Now, Ethan's on a new journey in hopes of finding Chris and getting some answers. Now, this journey will take Ethan to a mysterious village that looks to be distraught with all new enemies and creatures lurking about. Just as the previous games, we'll be seeing Resident Evil Village take on the first-person setup. The game is set to release on the 7th of May in 2021 and will be available on all major platforms. At number 2, Little Nightmares 2. Tarsier Studios received admirable remarks for their previous installation, Little Nightmares, after which a sequel was bound to be made. The video game is a follow-up from the previous game. In this game, you will not be playing as Six, the previous game's protagonist, but instead as a new character named Mono. The game is set to be a new horror treat for players as Mono and Six will be escaping more hostile enemies as they attempt their journey to Sanctuary. We don't know too many details as of yet, with just a couple of teasers and trailers out there. All we do know is that the same mechanics are more or less intact, but Tarsier Studios has adding some combat systems into the mix. It's not known how much of the combat will play a part of this upcoming platformer, but it's not enough to have us excited to try this one out. Little Nightmares has an initial release date of the 11th of February, and it will be available on all major platforms. And finally, at number 1, Outlast Trials. Fans of the previous Outlast installations will know exactly what this game is all about. The 2011 game was a fantastic hit, and the franchise only has 2 mainline installments, but we do know that the third title is in the works, and it's called the Outlast Trials. This is going to be a unique title compared to the previous 2, in that this game is focused around multiplayer. No information has really come out about the game, but from what has been stated. The basic premise of the title will focus on test subjects that were conducted during a Cold War experiment. The release date is to be announced, as well as the platforms that will be compatible with the game.
Grab my hand!
And that's going to wrap up this list. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did watch it all the way through, we appreciate you so much. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel down below for more amazing content. We'll see you in the next one.